Ronald Acuña Jr. is the most talented player to ever wear the Atlanta A. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Tuesday, July 22nd. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Coming up later in the show, I want to talk about the season ticket changes and how they're not being well received by the fan base, and how Atlanta Braves Holdings just continues to refuse to read the room on this. I want to talk about the roster move. Sandy Leon being added yesterday, Austin Riley being added back today. But first, we have to talk about Ronald Acuña Jr. While Hank Aaron is the greatest player in baseball history and the greatest player to ever wear the A, and this franchise has a lot of all-time greats, whether it's Chipper Jones, who has a claim to be one of the best switch hitters of all time, whether it's Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, the trio, the best, I'd argue the best trio of pitchers that any team has had in a decade stretch in baseball history. Ronald Acuña Jr. is clearly the most talented player that Atlanta has ever had. And if you were not sure of that, the 4 games that he has played since the All-Star break can illustrate that, how he can impact the game in every possible way. When you look at this, he has 5 hits in this stretch. He has a homer, a triple, 2 doubles. He's drawn 5 walks. He's scored 7 runs since the All-Star break. 4 games. He's, like, at the moment, right now, he is batting .328 with 174 at-bats. I know it's not a huge sample size, but since he returned, he's been one of the best hitters in baseball. But it's the individual things that he can do, and it's how he can do them in every single facet of the game, okay? So we know he hits home runs. Look at the home run that he hit on Sunday in the bottom of the 9th. Okay, Atlanta's down 4-1, I believe. He's facing closer Devin Williams, who has a unique changeup called the Airbender that is one of the best changeups in baseball. Ronald gets one on the outer edge of the plate in a 2-1 count. And not only does he get it, he hits it 114 miles an hour and 456 feet to center field. That pitch is not supposed to be hit that far in that direction by anybody. Devin Williams is 30 years old. He debuted in 2019. To this point in his career, he has pitched 235 2/3 innings, and he has faced 952 batters. This is the first time he has ever thrown a changeup on the outer third like that and given up a home run. First time ever in his career that he has done that. That's Ronald Acuña Jr. And that was the least impressive of the 3 amazing feats Ronald did this weekend. Okay? When you add in Monday, right? Saturday was the throw. For those of you who may have missed this, it was a fly ball from Cody Bellinger in the deep right field corner. Ronald catches it flat-footed, facing away from the play, or away from the infield. There's a runner on second base. Yorbit Vivas is the runner. He tags up and runs to third. And he's not, like, he throttles down as he gets to the bag. He's just going to come in standing. The ball was 301 feet deep. Ronald catches the ball, again, back to home plate, or back to the infield, turns flat-footed, and fires an absolute strike to Nacho Alvarez, who tags Vivas as he gets to the bag. Like, a lot of things had to go right, okay? Vivas is, not running full speed. He's not sliding into the bag because in no situation are you expecting a throw to come in from the deep right field corner. But Ronald unleashes a throw 301 feet in the air, no bounce, perfect strike. It's just absurd. And then last night, we see just an absolute bonkers scoring play from Ronald. Ronald was walked 3 times in this game. He scored from first on a Drake Baldwin double in the first inning. But in the fourth, he's on first, and Baldwin hits a ground ball single up the middle. Ronald is, he's leading off the bag, and he takes off when the ball is hit. And as the ball's passing second base, and he's getting up to second base, he just kind of casually looks real quick. And he sees the center fielder not really going with a huge sense of urgency. Looks like he's conceding Ronald getting to third. That's not enough. Ronald continues to run, runs through a Freddie Gonzalez stop sign, and scores on the play. Ronald scored on a ground ball single to the center fielder. Now, Ronald needed a little bit of help, right? The throw from Young-Hoo Lee goes into second base, not to the cutoff man. And the shortstop covering second takes a split second to realize, like, he has a little bit of a delay in getting the throw home because he doesn't realize Ronald's going. Because why would you try to score from first on this play? But Ronald scores. 29.8 feet per second. First to home time of, I believe it was 10.11 seconds. It's the fastest time of the year for Ronald. He is 6 steps away from getting to third base when the ball hits the center fielder's glove. And he scores on the play. It is absolutely absurd. There is a reason why Braves greats, and there's a story on here, I hate to give him credit, Mark Bowman of MLB.com wrote a story during All-Star Week all about just how amazing Ronald is and how Braves legends think that. He's got quotes in there from Chipper Jones. He's got quotes in there from Andrew Jones. He's got quotes in there from Tom Glavine. And the consensus of the article is that Hank Aaron is the greatest player in franchise history. And the actual quote here from Chipper, quote, "I'm not putting him," meaning Ronald, "in the category of Hank Aaron yet. Nobody disputes the fact that Hank Aaron is the greatest player to ever wear this uniform. I'm just saying the guy has more tools in his tool belt than anybody who has ever played in the organization. Ronald's not the greatest to ever do it for Atlanta, for the Braves." Have to make that clarification because some of these guys played in Boston or Milwaukee. But Ronald's the most talented to do it. Another quote from Chipper. "I think the proof is in the numbers. We've had guys that could hit 40 homers in a season. We've had guys capable of stealing 70-plus bags in a season. We've had guys capable of winning Gold Gloves in the outfield. We've had guys capable of hitting 300. We've had guys with cannons for arms. But I just don't think we've ever had one guy have all of that other than Ronald." Andrew Jones, similar sentiments. Tom Glavine, similar sentiments. And think about some of the players that those guys have seen. Ronald Acuña Jr. is the greatest talent in franchise history, and it's not particularly close. I really hope that the Braves can find a way, can work it out with Ronald to keep him here for the rest of his career. I know that the odds say he's not going to be the same player in his 30s that he was in his 20s. But as much as I don't want to think about him leaving in free agency because of the cost of the extension, this is the time for Atlanta to go beyond their comfort zone, to keep a Ronald Acuña Jr. He has, every single time it's come up, he has said he wants to be a Brave for life. The only real guy that we talk about that's done that is Chipper Jones. And I would argue, outside of Hank Aaron, Chipper Jones is probably regarded as the biggest franchise legend. Again, outside of Hank Aaron, who spent almost his entire career here. He finished up in Milwaukee with the Brewers for like a year or two. I would argue that outside of Hank Aaron, Chipper Jones, who did spend his entire career here, is regarded as one of the greatest players in franchise history because he never left. He took less money to stay. And it is going to require sacrifices from Ronald financially. There will be teams who can outbid the Braves for Ronald Acuña Jr. It'll require the Braves to also come into an unfamiliar territory financially, on the commitment. But it needs to happen. Things like this weekend have shown you that he is, again, the most talented player in this franchise's entire history. And even in the midst of a season that is frustrating and disappointing as far as the on-field results and the win-loss record, it is still an absolute joy and delight to get to watch this dude play baseball for my team every single day. In just a second, let's talk about some of the recent roster moves and what they have told us about Atlanta's plans and how the team is going to look down the stretch. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode's brought to you by our sponsor, NCase Cards. If you're not familiar with who these guys are, listen. They are a custom card company. What they do is you upload a stock photo, right? You upload a photo. The ones that I have in my house are of my kids playing youth soccer. But it doesn't have to be for that. It can, that obviously makes sense, right? You have trading card style photos of your kids from youth sports. But fantasy leagues, the winner of your league can get a card. The loser of your league can get a card, right? Bachelorette parties, weddings. Maybe you have an employee of the year for your company you want to recognize. You get them a custom card. You upload their photo. You choose from their different templates, right? They have the foil effects in the background, like a special edition trading card from Topps or whoever would have, right? You choose the template. You choose the holographic lamination options, right? You choose the text that's going to go on there and all that. Their designers work with you to get the card the way you want it. They print it, they slab it, and they send it to you. These cases have a cool built-in stand in the back. You can pop it open and close so it can stand on its own on your shelf. Again, works for all kinds of options. It's not just for youth sports. Anything you want to memorialize with a photo. I saw some folks do these for their family reunions. They took photos of everybody at the family reunion, and everybody got a photo from the 2025 family, or is getting a card from the 2025 family reunion. I've seen this work a ton of different ways. So go to NCase Cards, NCASE cards.com to start your custom order now. Use promo code BRAVES today for a discount. Again, NCase Cards, NCASE cards.com, promo code BRAVES. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. I want to talk about a couple roster moves, one that has already happened yesterday, and one that is going to happen that has not officially happened as of time of recording, but one we absolutely expect today. So Sandy León was added to the Major League roster yesterday. And to make room for Sandy León, Stuart Fairchild was designated for assignment. It's tough, but you get it. Stuart Fairchild has not played for Atlanta, I think, once since Profar came back. There's just not a spot for him to really get involved in the game plan. So Stuart Fairchild has not done a lot since Profar came back. Sandy Leon, career 208 hitter in the majors. He has, it's something like, what's this, 12 seasons, like 550 games. He's mostly always been a backup, right? He did get, like, in 80 games, like 2 or 3 consecutive seasons with Boston in the late 2010s. He actually did overlap with Chris Sale some. He was on the 2018 Boston Red Sox roster with Chris Sale. But for the most part, Sandy Leon has been a backup catcher. He's been with the organization since last year. He spent all last year in the minors. Drake Baldwin has actually shouted out Sandy Leon for the help that he gave Baldwin in AAA getting ready for the majors. He hit 181 in Gwinnett last year with a 589 OPS, so not great. He's hitting 183 in AAA this year with a 629 OPS. He has 8 homers this year. He only had 5 all last year. So he's doing better from a power perspective at age 36. But he's not in Atlanta to play. He's not in Atlanta to be a part of the offense on a regular basis or get into that many games. He's in Atlanta because they are committed to playing these catchers almost every day. We talked about this a little bit on yesterday's show. And this is another sign, because the way that the MLB rules work, and this is honestly kind of dumb to me. I did not realize this until I looked into it. If you take your designated hitter and you move them out of the DH role and put them into a defensive position, as I understand it, you lose the DH. You don't have the ability to just swap somebody else into that spot. You have to use pinch hitters and all of that stuff. So if you play both catchers almost every day, and from an offensive perspective, it's working, like you need to do that. But if you play the catchers almost every day, and whoever is behind the plate has to leave the game because of injury, you then have to go to pinch hitters and things like that the rest of the game. Now, if you, let's say Sean Murphy's behind the plate, Drake Baldwin's the DH. That's what they did last night. Let's say Murphy takes a foul tip off the mask. They want to get him checked out. You know, he's a little woozy or whatever, and they pull him out of the game for a concussion check, and he's going to sit the rest of that game. Now, you can put Sandy Leon in the game to cover the last couple innings and keep Drake Baldwin as the DH. It's the peace of mind and it's the insurance for the coaching staff. Not a lot of teams use a catcher as their full-time DH. We've seen some clubs. The Brewers were using William Contreras as a DH when he wasn't catching. We've seen, obviously, the Mariners are letting Cal Raleigh bat all the time. The Orioles did that with Adley Rutschman. But it wasn't something where it was going to happen almost every single day. And that's the implication here, is that it's going to happen almost every single day. The Braves are going to let Baldwin and Murphy have almost complete run of that. The trade deadline is in technically like 9 or 10 days. It's the 31st. Today's 22nd. And Marcell Ozuna is going to play a little bit here and there, but not a ton. When you have Eli White on your roster, and he can play anywhere in the outfield. They haven't used him in the infield this year, outside of spring training. He can play anywhere in the outfield. You have Luke Williams, who can play anywhere in the infield or the outfield. He's played everything, I think, except for maybe catcher, and I think somebody told me he was the emergency catcher. Now you don't need an emergency catcher. You have another catcher. So I don't expect Marcell Ozuna to be around that much longer. It feels like they are going to find a trade partner and they are going to move on from him. Again, he does have the ability to block a trade. I don't necessarily know if he's going to do that, but he has the ability to do it. And some of the quotes I relayed yesterday, it sounds like he's leaving it up to his agent and everything. I would imagine he would want as many opportunities as possible to play as he enters free agency. So I'm not expecting him to block a trade. It would make sense he would accept a trade and move somewhere else. But they're going to play these catchers as much as they can. Now, obviously, if one of the catchers either gets hurt or starts underperforming, then you have a question about who's going to take over at DH for a little bit. I do think with Eli White still being here and being a good defensive outfielder, you could take a Jurickson Profar and stick him in DH for a day. You could give Ronald a chance to have a chance to DH and take a half day or something like that. Heck, you probably could go out there and try to convince Matt Olson or something to take a day off as well. You also would have the ability to do something like keep Nacho Alvarez up. Again, this is not official as of time of recording. I'm sure it'll be out by the time the show comes up. That's how this always works. These things are announced as soon as I'm done recording. But Austin Riley is expected to be reactivated today. And the expected move when that happens is to send Nacho Alvarez back to Gwinnett. And let's kind of be clear on Nacho here. He looks a lot better than he looked last year, right? He got 8 games last year. He went 3 for 30 with 10 strikeouts, no walks, scored 1 run. They were all 3 hits were singles. This year, he is 5 for 22 with a double, 2 runs, 1 walk to 7 strikeouts. He's still not ready for the majors. Again, he did look better. Defensively, he was playing his usual spot of third base versus playing second last year. He did look more comfortable. He was charged with an error last night, I believe, but also made some really good defensive plays over the weekend. Like, he looks more comfortable at third base than he does at second. Ozzy's also hit close to 300 since the All-Star break. So the immediate urgency for second base is not as important as it was a couple weeks ago when I was talking about give Nacho a month of run at second base to see if he can do it next year or not. I still do want to see the Braves get him run at second base in the minors. Since he started his rehab assignments in early June from his wrist injury he had in spring training, he's played nothing but third base. Like, rookie ball, rehabbing, third base. AAA, third base. The majors, third base. And he's blocked at third base, right? Either he's going to get traded or he's going to have to move to second. And last year, other than when he was in Atlanta and then 1 start in Gwinnett, he didn't play any second. They were using him at shortstop before he was called up. After he was called up, it was mostly second. And then when he went back down, it was mostly third. So I still think the Braves need to give him some run at second base, which is tough because you have guys down there who can't really play third. But for the future of the organization, he needs to be comfortable at second base. Because that is the next spot to open up before third base, where Austin Riley is signed for 1 million years on the largest contract in franchise history. And honestly, just so it's been said, so somebody doesn't get mad at me, Riley needs to play more like he is getting the biggest contract in franchise history. He's underperformed this year, especially in high leverage situations. In just a minute, let's talk about some of the season ticket stuff going on. A-list members, if they got a renewal notice at all, got new terms to their agreement yesterday. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby, and I want to talk about something a surprising number of people reached out to me about this. A-list members who have season tickets for 2025 and either weren't given the opportunity to renew for 2026 or got a season ticket package with a much higher price and other changes that they didn't like. So let's talk about this. Okay. This is the time of year after the All-Star break. This is the time of year where folks will get season ticket renewal notices for next year. And your renewal isn't actually effective. I believe it's the end of August. It's like August 30th or 27th or something. I was reading through the terms last night. But there's a lot of people unhappy because there's been a couple different changes with the season ticket program. And I alluded to it a minute ago. Earlier, like, I'm sorry, not earlier. I alluded to it earlier. There are some people who were not given the opportunity to renew their tickets for 2026. And the limited number of people I've talked to who were in that bucket never really got a great explanation as to why they were not allowed to renew their season tickets. Like, they were able to speak to their A-list representative, but they were not really given a satisfying answer. The people who did get a new package to renew, depending on where your seats are and how large your package is, I've seen price increases from 15% to close to 50%. There's a Reddit thread on the Braves subreddit with A-list members talking about it, and a lot of them are like, it's a 28% increase, and they're given the dollar amounts. Like, we're able to verify off of the numbers they give. That's the percentage, right? Acuña, the season ticket holder who dresses in a full uniform and looks a lot like Marcell Ozuna, he put on social media on Monday, he got his renewal notices. His seats are behind the home dugout. His package went up 44%. So the Braves are asking fans to pay more for their season tickets. But they're also changing some of the terms to make these season ticket packages less appealing. Okay? So the first thing is the resale percentage is different. Everybody does this, okay? There is a rule about the percentage of tickets that you don't use that you can resell to others. It was as high as 70% just a couple years ago. It was lowered to 62% last year, and it's being lowered again to 50%. So if you have a full season plan, that's 81 games, if you sell more than 40 games of tickets, like you're going to all the weekend games, but you're selling the weekday games. If you drop below 50% that you attend and you sell the rest, you might not be able to get season tickets the next year. And the frustrating thing is, you're allowed to transfer them, to give them to people. But if that person ends up not being able to attend the game and selling the tickets, it's still held on you. Which, I get it. It's your ticket, and ultimately you're responsible for what happens to it. But that is frustrating to know that if somebody you gift your tickets to can't go, you're going to potentially lose access to postseason games or your tickets in general, etc. And I think the frustrating part is it went from 70% down to 50% across 2 seasons. And it's been 2 seasons where the team's performance has been worse. You went from winning the division to barely squeaking into the postseason last year to now being on track to not only miss the postseason, having one of the worst records in the National League. I've also anecdotally heard reports from people that some of the other benefits are not either as good as other teams or that they've removed certain things. I don't have a lot of details on that. So when I wrote it up for the newsletter, I didn't really go into detail on that, but less options for whether it's less desirable A-list member gifts, trouble getting the bobbleheads they want, that kind of stuff. Also, the 27 game plan, the partial package there, is apparently no longer allowing new signups if you're in the plan. I think you get to keep the plan, but new people can't sign up for that. You have to get the larger package. And so it's frustrating. I understand. Okay, I understand demand went way up. You were going to host an all-star game, right? And so you're in the postseason every year and all of that stuff. And so it makes sense that prices would have risen for 23 and for 24. Because people wanted to get season tickets to guarantee they'd be able to go to the All-Star game and the home run derby and all that stuff. And I'm fine with that. I understand that. And I understand that these decisions were probably made prior to the season starting. Here's our projections. Here's our 3-year plan for the pricing structure for A-list members. I understand that too. And I understand that in a vacuum, there's probably an algorithm out there. There's probably an Excel file, spreadsheet, whatever, that has, here's how many people we expect to cancel. Here's how many people we expect to keep their tickets at the newer prices, and how revenue is going to go up from season tickets. I understand all of that. But I feel like there's a lot of fans who don't look at this from the business sense. Because why would they? Don't care about that. Some of the people that I've talked to, I've chatted with a couple on the phone, I've texted or emailed with others. A lot of people I've talked to kind of feel a little bit betrayed by this. Fans, season ticket holders, aren't just mad because the team's underperforming. They're kind of feeling disrespected that, hey, yes, you're underperforming. And now when we do try to resell tickets for a game we can't go to, sometimes we have to take a loss just to move the tickets, right? If we're paying $30 a game per seat, we can only sell them for $25. We're losing money when we can't go to the game. But also now, you're asking us to pay more, and it makes the fan loyalty into a transaction. And it makes the fan loyalty into a profit center. And I'm not saying you can't raise prices. I'm absolutely not saying you can never raise prices. I'm saying maybe read the room a little better. And maybe this year wasn't the right time to put an increase out of this amount. And maybe you should put some sort of letter in there that explains prices are going up. We've done our best to minimize the cost of the increase, but here's why we have to raise prices. It feels like they chose to cash in goodwill for some sort of revenue increase. And the frustration for fans is the team's not performing on the field. Last offseason, the organization didn't invest in the product in free agency. So you're getting worse results. You're getting worse benefits, less opportunities to resell your tickets, less opportunities for other things, and you're paying more for the privilege. This just feels like an unforced error. And obviously, they're not going to come back and undo it now. But it's just another little bit of frustration between the business side and the baseball side. Let's be clear. This is not Alex Anthopoulos. This is not Brian Snitker. This is not baseball people. These are business people. But the baseball side of the house and how they're performing loom over all of this. If you had won the World Series last year and then you put out a price increase like this, I'd understand. And I do think fans, nobody's happy when their prices go up. But I think if you had won the World Series or made a deep playoff run and then went out and got some guys in free agency, re-signed Max Fried or whatever you did, and then increased prices, I think people would at least understand a little bit more. But not the way it's gone. And that's just disappointing. This has been Braves Today for Tuesday, July 22nd. Do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we drop the next episode. Heads up, there will not be a normally scheduled episode tomorrow. Atlanta plays a day game that would start 15 minutes after this episode, would go live at noon Eastern. So if something crazy happens, we'll drop a Wednesday afternoon, evening episode, but more than likely we are back on Thursday with our regularly scheduled episode. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.